Well, I hope you enjoyed your weekend doing something other than watching the Atlanta Braves, who got embarrassed by the Marlins down in Miami. Some injuries as well to Acuna and Max Fried. Just a disastrous weekend for the Atlanta Braves. We'll discuss all that on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at ShortstopBall. Also, make sure you check out the podcast at LockedOn_Braves. Send in any questions, comments, or feedback that you have for the podcast. Always enjoy hearing from you and discussing things with you down on Twitter or down in the comment section on YouTube as well. If you're new on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We are over 7,000 subscribers now. Thank you so much. That was our goal by the postseason. We've already gotten there, just like the Braves. We are locking things up early. So thank you so much for all the support there, getting us over 7K subscribers on YouTube. Still, if you haven't, hit that subscribe button. Would really appreciate it. You're watching this video, hit the thumbs up button as well. It does help the show a ton when you do that. Again, thank you for all your support, making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Got a lot of everydayer shout outs from the last video as well. Dave Roseman, Roxy Pinson, Jessica listening at the gym or in the car, Alan Hayes Music, Clinton looking to become an everydayer and have his best season just like Matt Olson, who plays every day, trying to be an everyday listener and also like Matt Olson, an everyday player, and hope that works out. Trevor Lee Kirkley, thanks for coming over to YouTube for the comment. Let me know that you're an everyday listener. Walker Houston, Michael Lawrence from Jacksonville, Florida, Buddy Elvis, and Sam Mink. Thank you so much for letting me know that you are everydayers of a Locked On Braves. On today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about that weekend that was in Miami, just awful weekend all around. We'll discuss that, some of the injuries that come out of that with Acuna and Max Fried, two guys you cannot afford to lose. Doesn't sound significant, but we'll discuss that. We'll get into our Minors Monday segment, minor league season coming to an end, just 1 week left at the AAA level. So we'll discuss all of that and then set you up for Monday's game where the Braves start a series with the Phillies, hoping maybe to knock them down a peg or two in those wild card standings. We'll see if they can bounce back after that tough weekend in Miami. Before we get into all that, I want to let you know this episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Swing for the fences on Sleeper picks, and you can win up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. All right, let's jump into it. We have to do it. Just a disastrous series over the weekend in Miami, getting swept by the Marlins, a team that the Braves have just absolutely dominated. The Marlins flipped the script on the Braves in Miami. You can honestly say this was embarrassing. Even if you want to say the Braves were checked out, maybe a little hungover from the clinch against the Phillies, you had an off day, and when everybody talked about that would help the Braves be ready, and they're all saying the right things, that, they're playing a team that's fighting for a postseason spot. They still got team goals, player goals that they want to strive for, and all of that. It just did not seem like the Braves were mentally checked in this weekend. Don't want to take anything away from the Marlins, who, played an incredible series. They are fighting for their postseason lives over there, and they certainly, won this series and won it handily. Don't want to take anything away from them, but clearly, this isn't the Atlanta Braves team that we're used to watching, and the Atlanta Braves team that racked up 96 wins and clinched the division, with 2.5 weeks to go. That's not the team we saw over the weekend. And one thing I never want to do on this, I think a lot of you, appreciate this. You've told me you appreciate this. I'm never going to tell you how to be a fan. You want to be angry and emotional and upset on each and every pitch, each and every game. That's on you. That's how you, I guess, enjoy the game. That's how you watch. That's certainly on you. If you're somebody who's just, doesn't get caught up on anything, you don't worry about anything, you don't get stressed out about the game, that's great. And that's how you are a fan. I'm never going to tell you how to be a fan. I will give you suggestions. And the suggestion I'm going to give you is treat these next 2 weeks like they are spring training games. That's my mindset right now when I'm watching these games at the moment. I'm treating them like they are spring training games. I don't care about the result. I don't care about the results of the players who are already locked up. They're going to be on this postseason roster no matter what. So I don't concern myself with that. I don't concern myself with the guys in the starting lineup. I don't concern myself with the guys in the starting rotation. I know are going to be there. I don't concern myself with the guys in the back end of the bullpen that you know are going to be your key guys. I don't concern myself with the results of those players, and I really don't concern myself too much with the result of the games. I'm truly treating this like spring training for the next couple of weeks. And this is what I said last week when we talked about, how do the Braves handle this, next stretch here? And I said, rest your guys up now. If you're going to take, a week or two off mentally, just kind of recover and get ready, do that now. And then that final week, so 1 week now, and then I guess the next week after that. So for this next week, I treat it like this. And then that final week, that's when I'm looking to say, okay, are the hitters locked in? Are the pitchers, fine-tuning themselves? Are they getting good reps? Are they getting good results? That's when I'm more so going to look to see, is this team locked in and ready to go? I can't imagine. I've never been a player, never been a major league player. I've never had to go through a 162 game grind, but I got to imagine you play, most of the season and you run away with it like the Braves do and you clinch that division. I have to imagine that there's some sort of competitive edge that goes away after that point that's just hard to pick up. And it's why sometimes you see teams that clinch so early and it's hard for them to get that back in time for the postseason. But again, for me, I don't really look at the results this past weekend or really for this next week. For me, it's that last week. Are they getting back locked in? Do they look more locked in at the plate? If they play like this, that final week, especially if you're throwing out, a Fried, Strider, Morton, Elder, you're throwing out those guys starting and the offense looks, lackadaisical. The starting pitching is way off. They don't look very sharp. Then maybe I'll start to throw up a little bit of red flags. But right now, I'm not concerned. And this week, I'm not really concerned either. Again, that last week is when I'll really start to focus on the actual results. Again, the Marlins fighting for a postseason spot. They played great. I'll just be honest with you, this was the least amount of Braves baseball I watched probably all year this past weekend. I watched most of the Friday game. I was clicking back and forth with Braves and college football on Saturday. Same thing with the NFL on Sunday, which I don't typically watch a lot of football, but I figured if the Braves were going to take the weekend off, hey, I might as well too. So I wasn't super locked in, especially with Acuna not in there. Not going to lie, that takes a little bit out of it. And also watch some of the other games as well. That Orioles-Rays series was really fun. The Diamondbacks sweeping the Cubs. So a lot of postseason races going on that were fun to watch. Braves just weren't fun to watch this weekend. So if you were like me, maybe you checked out some other sports, some other games as well. Certainly don't blame you. As far as what did happen on the field, Matt Olson set the franchise record, maybe the one big bright spot of the weekend. He got that 52nd home run to pass Andrew Jones for the most home runs in a single season by a Braves player. And he had another home run record as well. Marcell Ozuna hit his 35th home run of the season on Sunday. That made the Braves the first team in history to have 4 different players hit 35 or more homers in a season. So that's pretty cool as the Braves continue to go for that overall team season, single season record of 310 home runs. 309 is the record by the Twins. So Braves still pushing for that. Now the bad on the weekend, Ronald Acuna Jr., he left Friday's game late with a calf injury. Like I said, didn't play Saturday or Sunday. I don't think this is anything serious. They certainly aren't talking like it's anything serious. I think if the Braves, again, we're still playing somewhat meaningful games, and I know we're still playing for the top record in the National League and top record overall, but I gotta believe if these games really meant something, that Acuna would probably be in there. If they were postseason games, I think he's probably in there. Hopefully he's back in there on Monday. Haven't really been given much of an update on that, but it doesn't sound like it's too serious. There's just no point. Again, these games don't mean a ton right now for the Braves. There's just no reason to push him back out there. So Hopefully he does. Hopefully he gets those 3 more home runs. That's kind of what I'm waiting for or watching for with him. Max Fried also scratched from his next start with a finger issue. Max Fried's always dealt with blister issues. So again, makes sense not to really push him either. Let that heal up. I thought the Braves, and I talked about this last week, I thought they might try to find a way to avoid starting Max Fried against the Phillies again. I thought they might try to push Spencer Strider back as well, but that doesn't seem to be the case. It looks like he's going to pitch in game 2 of that series. So makes sense for me. Again, don't push Max Fried if you don't have to, and I'd rather him not face the Phillies again. Again, you could see them next, a couple of weeks in the postseason. So would rather them not see him too many times. Somewhat makes more sense for Strider to pitch against them. He's dominated them outside of that one postseason start. So again, he's really had their number. Eddie Rosario got hit on the elbow. That looked bad. He stayed in the game, but just where he got hit, I can't imagine that felt too good. So not only was it a disastrous weekend, the Braves just got embarrassed by the Marlins, gave up 2 home runs to Jazz Chisholm, but also just a rough weekend overall, a couple of injury scares and a couple of guys who, banged up that you really can't afford to lose, especially Acuna and Fried. And more than anything else, these last couple of weeks, avoid the major injuries. Guys, you can't lose. You really can't lose your top 3 guys in the order. Acuna, Olsen, Riley. Can't lose one of those 3 guys, and you can't lose Strider or Fried. Those are my guys that you cannot lose going into the postseason or in the postseason. Those are guys that I feel like if you lose, it really just completely changes the dynamic of this team. Those are just guys you cannot replace at this point. As far as the pitching on the weekend, I thought Bryce Elder was fine on Friday. Got off to a bit of a rough start, but got better as the game went on. His defense really let him down in the early parts of that game. Probably should have given up at least one less run or one fewer run. Again, maybe that was partially, some of the hangover from clinching. But again, defense let him down a little bit, and he had a little bit of a rough start where he did get hit hard in that first inning. But I thought he settled in really well, got through 5 innings, and he left the game with a lead. And then this is where the bullpen management I thought was a little bit odd. You went with Pierce Johnson. Elder went 5 innings. You go with Pierce Johnson in the 6th. That's fine. You bring him back out for the 7th, which I did not quite understand, unless some guys were unavailable and we just don't know that. You bring him back out for the 7th, and then he gets 2 outs, and then you got a lefty coming up, and you bring in Brad Hand. And I completely understand wanting to give Brad Hand a chance here. He just had some good outings in Philadelphia, and this is a spot where we talked about this in the podcast on Friday. Somebody asked, how do you use Brad Hand effectively? Well, you bring him in with 2 outs facing a tough lefty, and you make sure he gets that lefty out. If he does not, then what happened on Friday is what could happen. And what happened was just a disastrous inning where the Marlins came back, took the lead, and ran away with it after that point. Now, it got to a point, the game was tied there, and you left him in to face Jacob Stallings, which not that you should really have to bring in somebody to face Jacob Stallings, but Brad Hand stayed in to face him where you could have gone to the bullpen at that point and brought in Jimenez and hopefully got him out and kept the game tied. But overall, in the postseason, in my mind, if that scenario plays out, you just give Pierce Johnson the 5th or the 6th. You give Joe Jimenez the 7th, Minter the 8th, and Iglesias the 9th. Maybe you flip Jimenez and Minter depending on when the other team has some tough lefties coming up. But I think that's a strategy in the postseason. Those are the 4 guys that I trust right now: Johnson, Jimenez, Minter, and Iglesias. Those are your night shift, if you want to call them that at the moment. Those are the 4 guys I trust. And I understand why he brought in Hand there, because you want to see what he can do. And that's the spot where you would use him. 2 outs, a tough lefty coming up. But in my mind, in a postseason game, you just go Johnson, Jimenez, Minter, Iglesias. Again, you can flip-flop Minter in a Jimenez depending on the matchups. But wanted to see what Hand had, because the Braves don't have any other lefties right now with Dylan Lee injured. So you wanted to give Hand an opportunity there, but he did not pass that test. I think it's the last we've seen of Schuster. He was rough, good depth, but honestly could get traded in the offseason. If we don't see him in a Braves uniform again, I've never been very high on Jared Schuster. I think he was my 9th or 10th ranked prospect in the system coming into the year. A lot of that due to the fact there just wasn't a lot behind him, and he had some success at the upper levels. I still think he can be fine, 5th starter, but I think that's his ceiling, and it's been pretty rough for him for the most part this year. Not really sure what happened with Morton on Sunday. I think Morton needs some rest. The guy's 39. He's taking the ball every fifth day. I think they need to skip him a start in the rotation if you can. The problem with the Braves have, and I've talked about this a little bit, is that they backed themselves into the corner with the way they spun the roulette wheel with these starting pitchers and calling them up and then sending them down. And then once you do that, you can't call them back up for 15 days. So I would like to see Vines get another start, or Winans. I'd even like to see AJ Smith-Shawver come back up and either get a start or a look in the bullpen. But once you send them down, you can't bring them back up for 15 days unless there is an injury. So I wouldn't be surprised if somebody's about to go on the injured list here pretty soon, because I think you got to get one of those guys back up here to make some of these starts for you down the stretch. But as far as Morton, I'd like to see him get skipped and just give him a little bit of rest here down the stretch. Just a lifeless weekend overall from the Braves, kind of to be expected. Again, baseball season is a long season. You accomplish what you wanted to accomplish in the regular season. It would make sense that perhaps there's a little bit of lack of focus. And again, I'm treating this like spring training, at least for the next week or so. I'm not worried about the results, whether individually or team-wise. I want to see guys stay healthy. That last week, I want to see them lock back in, get that timing down, and get ready for the postseason. That's all I'm really concerned about the rest of the way. All right, our minor league season's coming to an end, but we do have another minor league Minors Monday segment for you here. We'll talk about some of the top performers for the Braves down on the farm this past week. We'll discuss all that next. Don't get caught unprepared when disaster strikes. Make sure you have emergency medication ready. Jase Medical can help you be prepared. Their Jase case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. I ordered mine the other day. All it takes to get a Jase case is to fill out a simple online form, and in some cases, jump on a quick call with a board-certified physician. I didn't have to do that. They just sent me an email, said, we got it. You're going to get this in the mail here in a couple of days. So looking forward to getting that so that I have my emergency medication ready to go. Everyone should be empowered to take care of themselves and their loved ones once during the unexpected times when you have, disaster or whatever it may be. Jase handles everything from online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jase Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using my code LOCKEDON at checkout on jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Braves will start a 3-game series with the Phillies at home on Monday beginning at 7:20 p.m. Eastern. Catch every pitch of the Braves' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Braves. All right, our minor league season is coming to a close. We got 1 week left of the minor league baseball season. That's only at the AAA level. I'm going to go through the top prospects, but not a lot of them played this week. You did have AJ Smith-Shawver. He started the game, went 3 innings, no hits, 1 walk, no earned, 2 strikeouts. Why could we not see this guy pitch at the big league level while he was there? I do not know, but Braves are smarter than me. I tell you this all the time, but again, I would have loved to seen him pitch at the big league level while he was here. Darius Vines backed him up, and those two combined for a really good game. 6 innings by Vines, 6 innings, 4 hits, 2 walks, no earned, and 3 strikeouts in relief of AJ Smith-Shawver. Hurston Waldrop made another start at AA. 4 innings, 4 hits, 1 walk, did hit a batter, but just 1 earned run and 5 strikeouts. If he is done for the year, and I would not be surprised, I told you when they drafted him, it'd be surprising to me if he threw more than 20 innings. Well, so far he's thrown 25 professional innings this year on top of the 100 innings he threw at Florida. And if he is done, that's 7 games started, 25 innings, just 15 hits allowed. So that's a 169 batting average against. Did walk 13 batters, and that was the one thing knock on him coming in is that he can lose control at time and walk batters. He hit a batter as well in his last outing, but just 5 earned runs allowed and 36 strikeouts in those 25 innings. That's a 1.80 ERA and a 1.12 WHIP. So again, very impressive. I think he's going to be, right up there. He and Smith-Shawver, I think, are going to be their two best prospects. I think you can put them in either order, and they could be coming up pretty soon. I mean, AJ Smith-Shawver's already made his debut. Waldrop's already up to AA. We'll see if he's done. I think he probably is, but maybe they'll move him up to AAA. Maybe they move him up to give him a look in the bullpen this year. I don't want to, completely rule that out. I think it's still not likely, but he got a really good look at professional level this year. I did not think he would throw that many innings after, as many innings as he threw at Florida this year and pitching deep into the College World Series and College World Series final. So great first look for Hurston Waldrop professionally if he is done. So those were your only 3 top prospects to pitch this week: Schwellenbach, Keeler, Murphy, Nacho Alvarez, Taveras. They're all done for the year at the lower levels. So those were your only top prospects this week. Ed Gwinnett, again, this is their final week. Andrew Velasquez, who the Braves just got from the Angels, to more middle infield depth. Really a glove first kind of guy, but he went 8 for 26 this past week, a double, a walk, did strike out 9 times, which isn't great, and had a stolen base. Dalton Guthrie was 7 for 17. Vaughn Grissom, he returned after an injury. He had 3 hits and 5 walks and just a couple of games played. I think he only played in 3 or 4 games. Nolan Kingham, 5 innings, 3 hits, 3 walks, no earned, and 7 strikeouts. Jesse Chavez working his way back, 3 1/3 innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, no earned, and 6 strikeouts. Could we see him return this week? And does he have, if he comes back this week, as good as he's looked, and I haven't watched him, but just looking at the numbers, as good as those numbers are at AAA, maybe he gets 1 or 2 more appearances and then comes back up later this week, and then you give him 3 or 4 appearances at the big league level to see if he is ready for the postseason roster. I mean, I never thought we'd be here at a point with saying, can we get Jesse Chavez back, because he could be a big piece of the bullpen for the postseason. But I think that's kind of where we are at this point. So hopefully we do get to see Jesse Chavez make his return this week, and hopefully he does get back to where he was earlier in the season with the Braves, where he was, a vital piece of that back end of the bullpen. Dylan Dodd, 4 2/3 innings, just 2 hits and a walk, 1 earned run, and 5 strikeouts. So a solid start for him. And then at Mississippi, Drake Baldwin, 7 for 22, hit his first AA home run, had 4 walks as well. In 14 games at AA for Drake Baldwin, he slashed .321, .390, .396. He had the home run, 6 walks, and 11 strikeouts. We'd like to see a little bit more power, but pretty impressive season for Drake Baldwin, who I think is going to move up the prospect ranking list for the Braves a good bit. Caught 9 games as well at AA. I don't know if his future is at catcher. I'm looking forward to going back and watching some of his games in the offseason to see how he looks behind the plate, how he receives the baseball. But either way, the bat has certainly come around, and if he does stay at catcher, or maybe he moves to first or DH, the bat certainly looks really good, and he's done a great job since getting called up to AA. Luke Waddell, 4 hits and 7 walks this past week. The guy just gets on base. He is just that ball player. I think he is. I think his ceiling is a utility bench guy, but certainly somebody who I think makes good plays. You've seen him make several solid defensive plays this year as well, and somebody who can hit a little bit, get on base. So I think he's ultimately that just utility guy for the Braves, that Swiss Army knife that can do a little bit of everything for you, play several different positions. Jesse Franklin hit a home run this past week. I want to talk about Jesse Franklin for a second, because I mentioned for a while, I think his upside, his ceiling is a Jock Peterson, a big left-handed bat with some pop. And you look at his splits this year against lefties, he's slashing 190, 299, and 290. Not great. Against righties, 249, 322, 473. Certainly much better, and it's pointing towards him being a platoon bat. And again, that's not the worst thing in the world, especially when it's a lefty and you're getting the stronger side of a platoon. But I do think that's where he ultimately lands. And I think from reports, it sounds like he's pretty solid in the outfield as well defensively. So again, I think his ceiling is a Jock Peterson, a big left-handed bat that maybe you can use in a platoon role or somebody off the bench, fourth outfielder type. So just wanted to mention that for Jesse Franklin. On the pitching side of things, Daniel Martinez, 6 innings, just 2 hits, did walk 3, but only 1 earned run and 7 strikeouts. Trey Riley, 4 innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, and 2 relief appearances. Domingo Robles, 5 2/3, 5 hits, a walk. He did hit a batter, but just 1 earned run and 3 strikeouts. He had a really solid season. Spent a little bit of time at Gwinnett, but mostly at AA. A 3.76 ERA, a 1.24 WHIP, and 130 strikeouts and 127 innings for Domingo Robles. And then Drew Hackenberg made a start at AA, but didn't last very long, just 2/3 of an innings. Didn't give up a hit, but he walked 4 batters, 1 earned run, obviously, as he walked in a batter, and 1 strikeout. So a little bit of a rough outing for him. It just couldn't find that command, perhaps getting tired at the end of a long season for Drew Hackenberg. So that is your Minors Monday. Again, next week we'll only have Gwinnett to talk about, and then I'll probably do some end-of-season awards for minor league Monday here in a couple of weeks, and then we'll see where we go from that. We may just push it off until then we'll be in the postseason, so we'll probably just be covering the postseason at that point, and then we'll bring back minors Monday later in the offseason. But minor league season coming to an end, kind of sad, but I think it's been a good one for the Braves. A lot of prospects who've really, I think, taken some big steps forward this year for the Braves, and I'm really excited to, in the offseason, as I always do, go back and dive deep into a lot of these prospects and then give my thoughts on them as I redo my rankings. I typically only do a top 10. I may have to do a top 20 because I think there just are that many exciting players in this Braves farm system right now. All right, next we'll turn our attention to Monday night's game against the Phillies. Tough matchup. Zach Wheeler back on the mound. Braves got to him the other week, but Kyle Wright, Phillies got to him. We'll see if he can take a step forward this time out. We'll discuss all that next. The MLB playoffs are around the corner, which means the clock is ticking on your chance to 100 times your cash on daily fantasy baseball. Baseball has never been more exciting than it is now with studs like Acuna, Matt Olson, Ohtani. Pick more or less on stats for these stars like home runs, hits, strikeouts, and more for up to a 100-time payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right, and you could win big. Sleeper is great for its social interaction. I've been telling you, we're using it over there for our Locked On Braves Fantasy Football League, where I'm getting embarrassed. I'm now about to be 0-2 on the season. Everybody's putting up monster weeks against me. That's frustrating, but I love being able to use the Sleeper app for that, and it's great for communicating with your friends and team and other teams in your league. Use promo code LOCKEDON and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit on Sleeper. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Braves will start a 3-game series on Monday night against the Phillies beginning at 7:20 p.m. Eastern. Catch every pitch of the Braves' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Braves. Just a little bit of news also about the bullpen, perhaps another piece coming back. Nick Anderson will begin a rehab assignment this week. I don't know if he's going to have enough time to get ready for the postseason. If he can get, he's going to have to make probably at least three, I think, rehab appearances. And again, this is the last week for Gwinnett. So how many can he get in? And then how many looks does he get at the big league level to show that he's ready for the postseason? I don't know. I don't think it's very likely at this point. Maybe if the Braves went deep into the postseason, maybe he gets added later on. But either way, Nick Anderson, making his way back, trying to prove that he earned or deserves a spot on that postseason roster. So that'll be something to watch this week as well. On Monday night, it'll be Zach Wheeler versus Kyle Wright. Need to see Kyle Wright take a big step forward. I think you saw some good things in his last outing. You certainly saw some bad things as well, particularly that first inning where he just clearly didn't have it. Now maybe he's got that big league start under his belt coming back from the injury. Looking for a much, more consistent Kyle Wright this time around. Hopefully he can get through 4 or 5 innings and just look much sharper with his pitches this time around. Again, hate that he's having to face the same team he just faced, but again, he didn't really look like Kyle Wright the last time. So if he looks like Kyle Wright this time, then maybe he'll have a lot more success. But that's certainly, one of the big keys to watch here for the Braves. I mentioned I'm not worried about any of the regulars, those who have a spot on the postseason roster, but it's guys like Kyle Wright. We talked about Brad Hand, those in the back of the bullpen, guys on the bench. We're looking for guys to kind of fill out this postseason roster. Kyle Wright's one of those. We don't know what kind of role he's going to play. So this is certainly something to watch, and it is one that's going to be a little bit more results-based for me. I'm going to be looking at the results and how he pitches and more so just how he looks and how his pitches look and his command of them. So big start here for Kyle Wright. Took Braves took them a minute last time to get to Zach Wheeler. Once they did, they absolutely pummeled him. So hopefully that continues and they can get to him, a pitcher that has had a lot of success against the Braves in the past, but hopefully they can put up some more runs on him. Hopefully Ronald Acuna Jr. is back. That's my big hope for Monday, that he's back in the lineup and that he's fine and that he can go back to work and work on his MVP resume. So, and the Braves got an opportunity here to, take out the Phillies. They got a pretty sizable lead for that top wild card spot, but you have a good series against them. Perhaps you put them back down there in that mix. The Cubs had a rough weekend, so they're down there, with those other teams, the Marlins, Diamondbacks, Reds, Giants, all in that mix for the wild card. So Braves got a chance to put the Phillies back down there with them and make them sweat a little bit here down the stretch if they can have a good series against their division rivals. Again, that series starts on Monday at 7:20 p.m. Eastern. It'll be Kyle Wright versus Zach Wheeler. Catch every pitch of the Braves' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Braves. Thank you so much for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. If you're an everydayer, let me know down in the comment section below on YouTube. Also, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, all the cool things that you do to help support this show. Follow us on social media at ShortstopBall and at LockedOn_Braves. Send me any questions, comments, feedback. Always enjoy hearing from you. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.